Karibuni to this Elephant Cast, where we get to meet one of the most exciting Kenyans that maybe you have never met, you don't know what she does. Her name is Mwende Gatabaki. She's a champion of digital transformation. She's done amazing things all over the world and right here in Kenya. And she's a mother, a wife, a daughter, a friend, many, many things. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Mwende Gatabaki.
Thank you.
Mwende, it is such a pleasure to have you join us. There is so much I think we have to talk about, but then I'm really interested in your career, how you came to be, doing what you're doing. I know you've done very well, not just in Kenya, but globally. And then I'd also like to know, what have you done here in Kenya? What is it you want to do with your life? What is your legacy? But let's begin by telling me a little bit more about you. Who is Mwende Gatabaki?
Thank you, Sally. Mwende Gatabaki. Well, I'll go back to my growing up. You know, my parents were Maumos. My father, in fact, the late Senior Chief Gatabaki, was detained for 9 years with Jomo Kenyatta. Mm-hmm. So basically, I come from a political family where politics has been, our way of life, and even just understanding what is happening in the country. That has been how we've been brought up. Both my parents, my father and my mother, were civil servants. So we were brought up to serve people, to serve the nation, to build the nation the best way we knew how. So even as I grew in my career, the one thing I wanted to do is have social impact in my country. And that's what I've always wanted to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yet I know you've spent a lot of your life out of the country. Perhaps just walk us through, what has your professional life been like? Where did you study? What did you study? What are you?
Well, I did my first degree here. I went to Kenyatta University, where I did a first degree, a BSc in mathematics and computer science. Mm-hmm. Then from there, I went for a postgraduate diploma in the UK at Salford University. Then I came back to Kenya.
Still in mathematics or
computer science. Then I came back to Kenya and I got my first job with USAID, the Kenya mm-hmm. office. Mm-hmm. While I was at the USAID, basically I would say I was a hands-on technology person. And at that point, I decided that I didn't want to just remain a technical person. I wanted to move on to management level so that I could apply technology. I could be at the level where you apply technology in the business, in the organization. And at that point, I enrolled for a master's in organizational development. I was very particular. I didn't want to do business. I wanted to understand the people side, of an organization. So I did management and organizational development. Then from there, from USAID, I joined the UN system. First of all, I joined the UN here in Kenya, UNICEF, for about 2 years. From there, I went to Italy, where I was working now for the World Food Programme. And from there, let me say, I was now exposed to the world because in WFP, I was in charge of some African countries, some in Asia, some in Latin America. And I remember that being the first time I had heard when I was being told what I'll be in charge of, my portfolio. And I was told you'll be in charge of the Balkans. And I was like, I hadn't heard that before,
Where is that?
Where the hell is that, And so some of the countries, Yugoslavia, Croatia, And I remember the first time I went to Kosovo for a mission. And the children in Kosovo would come and touch my hair because they had never seen this kind of African hair. And they would say, is it cotton wool? And they would really put their fingers inside. And it was also fascinating for me to see people who've never seen Africans before, So yeah, I got a lot of exposure that way, both technically and,
So technically, what exactly? So you're in charge doing what?
Okay, so for example, now when I went by the time now I joined the UN, and I went to Italy, I was in charge of networking, providing, at that point, the World Food Programme had 60 country offices spread all over. And one of my core projects was actually to implement VSAT technology all across the countries and also roll out the corporate systems. We used to call it the Enterprise Resource Management System, SAP.
So this is computer networking we're talking about?
Yes. Okay. Networking, the infrastructure and the systems.
And this is about what time?
This was about from 1997.
Okay.
And the whole idea was to establish a communication network which would facilitate the logistics of food delivery, because the World Food Programme is involved in delivery of food to especially emergency situations, disaster areas, etc. So the whole communication infrastructure was to facilitate food distribution, the logistics of food
all
distribution.
These countries.
Yeah, across the board, the whole value chain, from the shipping, delivery, distribution in the countries themselves. That kind of thing. They would also respond to emergencies. For example, I remember when there was an earthquake in India, and as technology people were always the first ones on site to go and establish the infrastructure from which now will be used, to deliver the food.
And that's something we don't think about. Like when there's an earthquake and all the systems are down,
yeah,
somebody has to set up the systems so that the things that, we all know the pictures of the trucks arriving, yes, with the food, but somebody has prepared the ground for that.
The ground for that,
wow.
Absolutely, okay. Absolutely. So I would say that period was managing large projects. That's when I got into, managing a large project, but also aligning technology with the business. It's not just about technology itself. It's what the business trying to achieve. What's our output program trying to achieve, making sure the technology is facilitating that.
Okay. Yeah. So on one hand, you're handling the needs of the people, people working under you.
Yeah.
But on one hand, you're also dealing with making sure that they are able to serve the interests
of the business
what
needs.
Is
They're
needed,
meeting
the
the
business needs.
Absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely.
In all these different countries, which must be very different in each different space.
Yes, the culture is different. So one of the things that happens in that kind of a setup is that you are managing people in different countries. So you have a multicultural team and multidisciplinary. Some of them will be telecommunication people, some of them will be IT people, some will be support staff. And one of the things I was doing with the technology people is also training them in terms of technology training, but also training them in terms of management training, so that they are also able to manage resources, the financial resources, etc. And also, you're also training the organization to leverage technology to be able to deliver, the business of the organization. So being involved in different types of training.
And these days, we take for granted that everybody's using computers, but that was a time also when those changes were coming in. Absolutely. And people are really moving from doing things the hard way, with pen and paper, and now moving to using computers.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was the most difficult thing, if you think about that part of your journey for you?
I would say there are two things. One is, as an African woman, being in charge. I remember one training we held I think we had organized it in Pakistan, and we had all the IT managers from all the countries, coming there, and I'm the one who was taking them the networking training. So there were guys from Sweden, and this whole team there were about 50. We were only 2 women.
Oh, wow.
Yes, we were only 2 women. And so I was taking them through, for example, setting up infrastructures. And afterwards, most of them would ask me, so what state in America do you come from?
They assume because you're a black woman must be from the US.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's just first of all understanding that actually you can come from here, and actually be good in technology. I mean, they couldn't see how you can be from Africa. You're good in technology. You're the one training them. You're the one championing this project. Yeah. So that's one. Even just getting them to accept. I mean, they could see I was good as at what I was doing, but just getting them to see actually, this is normal. Yeah, she's that good, and she's from Africa. She's from Kenya.
Will people test your authority?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have
they would do that. As a woman, they also want. Wait a minute. I mean, this is not a woman's thing. Mm-hmm. I remember, for example, setting up networks in Kabul. Yeah, we had a mission in Kabul at one point.
Okay, so you're one of the few Kenyans who knew where Kabul was before.
Yes.
Okay.
So first of all, in Kabul, you have to wear whatever you're wearing inside. You have to wear clothes fully covered. You have to be fully covered, to be in line with the culture of and to respect their culture, and And then we were setting up the masks. And so I'm there, I'm fully dressed, but also have to go up, and set up the masks and stuff like that. And I remember people feeling very uncomfortable with that. That's a man.
Wait, so you would go up?
Yes, that's what I was good at. Okay. So you have someone inside, you're setting up the equipment, the outdoor equipment and the internal equipment. Yeah, people are different in different things. Yeah. So you have people inside tuning, and you're there trying to adjust. You know, it's a team thing.
Yeah.
But yes, people will always feel like, no, there's something wrong.
And you say, bring me my hard hat, I'm heading up the pole.
Yes.
I can imagine. So after World Food Program, where did you go next?
Then after World Food Program, that's when I got an opportunity to come back here to Kenya. So I worked for Kenya Tea Development Agency. It was previously a state-owned agency until about 2000, when it was privatized, but not privatized in the normal sense, but privatized in the sense that it was now owned by the farmers, you know, who deliver, the small-scale tea farmers.
Yes.
Okay, and from there, from 2000 to 2004, they had invested heavily on technology, but they had not seen any results. You know, so basically they were worried that we just continue investing in technology and it's not giving us any business results. So that they created a position for Group General Manager ICT, and I was hired in 2004. So I came from my last mission was in Eritrea. So I came back and joined KTDA. That was also a very interesting time because this was completely different. And in fact, people used to tell me, how do you leave a high-level position in the UN and come here, you know, working with farmers?
Work with tea farmers.
Yes. You know, soil. I remember the chairman of the board when I attended my first board meeting, and the chairman of the board made a joke and said, "This room has never smelled of perfume," you know, because I was the only woman board member. And then in senior management, who used to sit on the board and present things to the board. And even in top management, we were like 8, and I was also, you know, the only lady.
So why did
top
you come?
management?
Why did you do it?
Well, for a different reason. The whole idea was farmers were uprooting their tea. Farmers had started uprooting their tea because they were not getting money from their tea. So they wanted to start planting something else on their farms. So the whole idea was to, first of all, commercialize small scale tea farming, so that you know, the farmers can actually begin to get more income.
Okay, yes, but why would Mwende leave this job where you're going over the world, you're doing all these amazing things?
Yeah,
I understand the farmers needed somebody, but why you? I mean, why would you think I should not only I can do this, but I should be the one to do it?
I would say it's my satisfaction. What gives me satisfaction is social impact.
Okay.
To see farmers get more money for their tea, to see KTDA become the biggest, the largest income for foreign exchange income earner in Kenya, to corporatize KTDA and make it a profitable organization. You know, so much so that it became the first African organization to win a global ICT award, which recognizes digital transformation initiatives that lead to profitability and growth, significant social impact, and economic growth. So that was my satisfaction, in the sense that I have delivered and I can see the outputs. I've used technology and I've seen that farmers can now earn more, educate their children, take their children to hospital. That was my satisfaction. And
there's direct impact right there.
There's direct impact.
Okay, so
tangible.
How long were you at KTDA?
I was in KTDA for about 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then?
Then from KTDA, I got an opportunity to join the African Development Bank. The one thing I had felt that I needed in my career is to work in the financial services sector. So when the position came up, I thought, this is good.
Why did you think it was important to do the financial service? Because now you've done the delivery of food, so you've worked with that kind of international NGO, humanitarian. You've worked with farmers. Now you decide financial services.
Yes.
Why?
Generally, whatever you do, whether it's economy, whether it's social, in the society, the financials, money, just learning how these things work. For example, we are doing projects in the factories. The capital injection, just learning how does that work, and also being in that kind of organization that deals with money management, whether it's for projects, whether it's for government projects, for example, whatever, from whichever perspective. That had always, I felt I was lacking that. Okay. I felt I was lacking that. So in addition to that, it looked like a very good offer. I mean, they were going to pay me 5 times what I was earning, in KTD. I mean, yeah, would I like earning a little bit more?
It was a good career move professionally as well.
It was a good career move, And on joining, they had created a new position again called Client Technology Services for the same reasons. They'd invested so much in technology and they couldn't see how it was supporting the business. And what used to happen those days is that if, let's say, AFDB has a project here in Kenya, the PS finance or the minister would actually have to go to Tunis to negotiate for the loan. So it was becoming very difficult for the different countries. And also very expensive, because when you're doing a project, whichever country you're doing a project in, you're having to send staff. So people are always on the move. People are always coming to negotiate, things like that. So the one thing that the AFDB had decided as a strategy was, first of all, to decentralize the operations and the functions to the country offices, to provide proximity, to go to where the people are. The people you're serving, go where they are. And not only does it help with cost cutting, it helps to understand the people you're helping better. You're based in Kenya. You understand what's the socio-political, economic issues here in Kenya, so that by the time you're saying we'll do this road, or we'll fund this, you already know that what that will lead to. But that project had kind of failed. It has stagnated. It had stalled for about 5 years. So by the time I joined, I did an assessment to see, first of all, why has it stalled? What is it supposed to achieve? Why has it stalled? So I championed the decentralization of the bank's initiative, again, leveraging on technology, so that people seated in Kenya or seated in whichever country in Africa, you're able to even follow up on what projects are in the pipeline, what has been approved. You can actually go to your country office, and actually all the negotiations will be held there, supporting the project in the country office. So that now
whatever ministry team doesn't have to fly to Tunis.
Exactly.
They're sitting in the ADB office in Nairobi.
Yes.
And being able to do everything they need to do.
Exactly.
Wow.
And in addition to that, the Minister for Finance does not have to go to AFDB to see the portfolio, or our debt portfolio. We have Thika Road, or I'm just giving examples. We have this project. Seated in their office, they have a system where they can, see, our relationship with FDB is like this. These are the projects we have. These are, this is how we are paying them back. This is how they're scheduled. That kind of thing. So to tighten our relationship with the clients, and at the same time make it a lot easier for the clients to come to us and do business with us. And also we were responding to the Chinese in the sense that people are finding it a lot easier to get loans from the Chinese. So the African Development Bank was also becoming irrelevant.
Yeah. We need a bank.
Yes.
For us, by us.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So it was getting technology to work for AFDB. So that's what I championed, and I was there for 4 years.
And how did you feel by the time you left? Was it working? Had you begun to see the impact of it?
Yes, in actual fact, we had already redeployed. What I did was also come up with an instrument to facilitate that decentralization. It had some 3 key things. One is delegation, what you call a delegation of authority. So you have moved functions to the country office. What will they be? What authority, decision-making authority will they have? Because you must delegate that, so that people don't have to go to the head office or call the head office to get decisions made. So you set decision-making levels, and you also set thresholds. For example, a country manager can approve a loan of so much. A regional director can approve a loan of so much,
And the technology is there to support that.
Exactly. Okay. This technology is there. The system being used by the whole of AFDB is one. Okay. So you can see from a snapshot, you can see everything happening in all the countries from one slide, so to speak. So that was one, delegation of authority. The second one was decentralization of the operations themselves. So that by the time you start identifying the project, doing analysis, getting it. The only thing which would come back to the head office is approval.
Wow.
The board meets, approves the project. The negotiations happen here, the implementation, that kind of thing. So it decentralized also the operations. And the third one was redeployment of staff, facilitate. So who do you send where? So redeployment of staff. So yes, it was successful.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so why did you leave? Was it because it was done and there was nothing more to do, or?
Actually, it happened in a very interesting way. That at some point in 2014, end of 2015, no, early 2014, we had just gone through a Westgate incident, I think that was 2013.
Here in Kenya,
which is
when there was the terrorist attack.
The terrorist attack,
okay.
Yeah, the terrorist attack. And one of the things they realized when it was being discussed is most of the terrorists.
So they being who?
The government.
The government of Kenya.
Yeah, some of the issues that came out very clearly was all the terrorists actually had their IDs, Kenyan passports. So basically they did their thing and they walked out with everybody else and went home somewhere, most of them. So one of the things that clearly came out is to have an identity system, an identity infrastructure for people. We give people IDs, we talk about giving people IDs. No, when you're born here, actually that's your right.
Okay. It's not something that someone gives you as a gift because you have worked hard to get it.
Yes, you're born here, straight away, you are in that database. So the whole idea was to have a digital database where you're right from birth. Your birth certificate is there. By the time you get to the age of 18, in fact, you should be sent your ID. Your ID is ready. Come, we take your picture and
We know you're 18, yes. So come and get your identity.
Come and get it. When it comes to voting, we don't ask you again. We take your biometrics. It's there. Yeah. So come and pick your state where you want to go and vote. So it was to create that ID. To create that database where, first of all, it has the identities of people, everyone in Kenya, including those who are not Kenyans, so that we know who they are. And, if you have your family here, we want to know who
So people who are resident in Kenya but are not Kenyan citizens.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone living in this country. In fact, we are going to call it Umoja, meaning anyone in this country, whether Kenyan or not, we were going to know you and you are going to be on this database. Yeah, so that was one. But the other thing which came out of it, that was the initial idea, actually. Yeah, that was the initial idea by the president. And this database was going to help us address security issues. Security issues in the sense that we know who's coming in and out of the country. Mm-hmm. We know how, when people are moving within the country, we know. If people just come and stay in a hotel X, you know who they are and where they are staying. In addition to that, to help police with crime, because we would have then a crime database where if someone is in a particular prison X, you know. When we have people, let's say, rapists who move from one region to another, they must be in that database because...
So it's not just about your passport, your ID, those big documents, but all your transactions or whatever you're doing. We're able to say, these people have moved from Nairobi County, have now gone to live in Kilifi County. Yes. And people somewhere in the system, people can find me.
Yeah. Okay. And one of the things I had learned when I was in Tunis for those 4 years is they had such a system and it worked. In the sense that in Tunis, if you moved from one house to another, in another, let's say, estate, you actually went to with the owner of the house, you went to the nearest, you would have a small government office. And it was always like in the next supermarket, in the nearest supermarket, where they get your details. So they know if you asked for my record in 4 years, all the houses I moved in and all the homes that I stayed in, it's there in the database. You know, the owners of those homes. So what that does, and this is how it worked in Tunis, you could not have people just moving across, bombing this and that without them being tracked. Because the minute you move from this house or you come in and stay in this house, it's in the system.
Okay, so right now, let me be honest. I have double feelings to this. I'm really ambivalent. Okay. On one hand, I can see what you're saying. I think that's excellent. Okay. On the other hand, I'm thinking, do I really want some big brother kind of thing, tracing everything I do, everywhere I go?
Okay.
I'm having issues with this.
Okay. Well, what happens with those, we call them big data, okay? Big data management. as a country, we must have that big data management. What you do is put control systems. Who can access what? And that has to be very clear. You cannot have the police just accessing our normal citizens' database. No. The police, for example, would have their own database for them. NIS or CID, they have their own database for them. Only them will have
access to certain information.
Yes. Immigration, NRB, we have like 5 departments. We have the immigrations, we have the National Registry Bureau, which deals with IDs. We have the birth certificate, we have the refugees. Each would have its own database with its own security systems. That nobody
so it's all integrated, yes. But everybody has different levels of entry depending on what they need to do.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Okay. Yeah.
So if now it's a question of tracing a terrorist, then a different, set of
and
data
a different
becomes,
access. You can't have people just having access to everywhere. No.
Okay.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the government of Kenya is doing this. You're sitting in Tunis. How do you get involved?
So what happened was, so at some point, the president requested the president of the world of FDB whether I could be released to come and do this project.
So they specifically asked for you. They did not do an opening. We're advertising it in the newspaper. Mshai they actually asked for you to do it based on your work.
Yeah, actually I have a letter with my name on it, signed by the president. Okay. But the reason they identified me is because I had also won many awards in ICT. For example, in 2007, I won award, and the award called the the Top Public Sector CIO Award in South Africa. It's an organization called the Africa ICT Achievers. That was in 2007. In 2009, when I was working for the same project I was doing in KTDA, we got the Global Award, the first African Global Award in the US. Then in somewhere along 2013, during the Kenya at 50 Years Award ceremony, I was awarded the ICT Woman of the Year, and for ICT utilization, I got some 2 awards. So basically, by 2014, just going through the record of who can do this,
they looked for the best person for the job.
Exactly. So that's how it happened.
Okay.
Yeah. So I come back to Kenya. The way it was initially done, I was asked, we want to do this. Can you come and we discuss? Yeah, the president would like to meet you. Can you come and discuss? So I came, we discussed, and I got the gist of it. Yeah, we have all these databases on people here, IDs here, this and that. Can we somehow put them together, digitize them, make them accessible to the different, security agencies, etc. So I understood the whole concept. In fact, the president called it the single source of truth. It's a one database. If you want anything on Kenyan, that's where it will be. If you want anything, so I went through the process that they had gone through, the government, and I proposed a different approach because I felt it was not holistic enough. There was the part for people, so it would have 4 pillars. There's a part for people. There's the part for land, who owns what. There's a part for
a huge issue here.
Yes, a very huge issue. There was the part for company registry. You see, financing of terrorism, how does it happen? Through our financial system. So the component of company registry is to make sure every company, we know who the directors are. Every company receiving money from outside, it can be tracked. It can be tracked, very easily tracked. Every property in Kenya, you know whether it's owned by an individual or a company. Yeah, so it was going to be an integrated database. And then the assets. Knowing what is public, what's public land, what's private land, is also an issue there. What's private assets, what's public, so also about assets and how we manage our assets as a country. So it was going to be a database, a holistic database. In fact, we would call it an infrastructure, an identity infrastructure for people, land, company registry, and assets. So I proposed that. I proposed a new approach, which was to do. I mean, if you're going to do digital transformation, let's not just do one component of it. Let's be holistic.
Yes.
Yeah. So have those 4 pillars in place, and so they agreed. The president thought it was a good idea, and I also requested him whether it could be tabled to the cabinet for buying. You want it to be, they want the whole cabinet to buy into it, So
that it's really a state project, and not an individual's project.
It's not an individual project. And initially he kind of resisted and said, why? It's good, everybody understand what it is. And I had to convince him, the way we do projects, if you really want it to take off, ownership is very important.
The process matters.
Yes, the process matters as much as the end, the deliverables. So I had to make a cabinet paper. I had to present a cabinet paper, which was well presented and well received. And so it was now to proceed from there. So when we start doing now the financials of the project, we realized this was going to cost. Okay, things don't come cheap in technology, and so the government was only going to be able to put together so much. And I said, no problem, because you can mobilize if you have a good project. You can mobilize money for it.
Resources will come.
Yes, resources will come. And I was able to actually begin identify financiers, identify digital solutions providers, biometric, because here we are talking about biometric technology. And also identify what we call them integration. So you have the databases, you want all these databases connected together in a manner that if you're searching for something, it's seamless. And we were able to do that.
So you had to look for the resources to be able to support this.
Yes, and that I did. I was able to actually get a financial for it, to get the digital solutions providers, global, people you can trust, global companies who do this for a living. Yeah, and I was able to actually put a consortium together and even just do the planning of how the resources would be managed. I'd even formed like an a special purpose vehicle, so that we are able to get the finances, we are able to deliver on the project, we are able to see how it can pay back, so that we can pay back the loan, and how the government would need to give us like a guarantee that if this state agency is not able to pay, the government would come in. So that bit I did that.
So wait, this is the system that also would have delivered on our voter registry?
So in fact, my most excited part, and which I was really looking forward to, is a single voters register. Because every 5 years we have a problem with our voters register. And sometimes, as of not this 2017, before that we had like 3. Yes. The blue book, the red book, the green book, for me, my mission and my goal was going to have one digital voters register.
So that we take that issue off our table when we talk about elections.
Completely. And not only that, so that by the time you get to the age of 18, you have the right to vote. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be asked for your ID again. No, you're a Kenyan and you have the right to vote. And your data is in your biometric identification is in the system. So all you needed was to say, this is where I want to go to Westlands. I want to go back to the village. That's where I'm going to vote. Yeah, just say where you're going to vote. So it's in the system where you're going to vote. Yeah, but that becomes a non-issue. So and that is something which I was really looking forward to.
Okay.
Yes.
So now, what happened? Because I'm hearing this, and it sounds very great, right? So where are we in the process? Is it complete? Did we never start? Did it just remain a mirage? What happened?
Well, I would imagine, I've always thought, at some point I noticed things began to change. The minute, I was very proud of saying we're going to get a single voters register, but I realized a bit late in the day that it made people totally uncomfortable. So issues began being raised. In fact, some of the issues which were being raised to the president was, how do you bring someone to handle security issues and they're not a security person? Of course, they never mentioned it directly. They never mentioned it directly. They would just talk about security issues generally. Yeah, and slowly I saw the kind of support I had been getting from the beginning. It started, going down. The people I used to call, like the chief of staff, who was my contact person, they stopped taking my calls, And at some point, then my office was in Nyayo House. My security was withdrawn. My vehicle was withdrawn. Then I thought, no problem, I'll continue working. So I began going with my own personal vehicle. My parking was withdrawn. So the next thing I was told is there's no parking here for you. I continued working. I could see what was happening, but I was so determined to deliver on this because I believed in it. And I believe the president also believed in it. And
You're being told go, but
yes, I'm being told go, gently go, and I'm saying no, I'm not going anywhere. I'm finishing what I came to, what I came to do. They stopped paying my salary. I continued going on for the last 6 months of my.
So this was about how long into the project?
I began like early 2014. Like February 2014. They stopped paying my salary in November. I continued going on all the way to June. So everything was fully shaped, ready to take off.
The conceptualization was complete.
The conceptualization, the finance, the resourcing, everything was done. And it got to a point where, someone was sent to me to tell me, basically if you don't go, you'll be sorted out. Wow. And these are security people, so to speak. So you don't take them too lightly. I would say I quit. I left the project because I thought at that point it was for my family. It was no longer worth it. If anything is going to happen to me, my husband, my daughter, then it was no longer going to be worth it. I would say that's why I left it, and it never took off from there.
So did you hand over to someone, or you just shut down one day? What happened? You just didn't go back? You closed the project? What's the mechanics? It sounds like such a large project.
Yeah.
You've got people involved, not just in Kenya, but all over the world.
Yeah.
You've got all these institutions expecting something. So how do you shut down the project that big?
Just like that. Just like that. In the sense that one of my security people told me, you know what, even water, I don't want you to be drinking in the office. So would come from home with my bag, it has my water. Tea should make my security person would make the tea herself. When people around you start being so worried, and these are not, they're not faking it. They're genuinely
not
worried.
Intimidated.
Exactly. Yeah. And these are people who are in the security system still. Yeah. You must ask yourself, is it really worth it? So, and then I could see, they're not paying me my salaries. They've put it on hold, but I'm still continuing. I have no parking. I'm still continuing. So it gets to a point where I remember one time calling for a board meeting and the boardroom was locked. So I had to have the board meeting in my office and lock the door so that I don't get thrown out. Yeah, by the GSU in Nyayo House. So it was getting to that level, and I thought, you know what? So yes, I got to a point, but I did inform the chief of staff all along. So it got to a point where he was also not taking my calls. So I stopped. Yeah, it was that unfinished. It's a very unfinished business. Even today, I still feel it's a very unfinished business. So
nobody's taken it over, it's just stopped?
No, it just stopped.
Okay.
It just stopped, yeah.
So what are you doing now? Because you haven't gone back to Tunisia.
Yeah.
You're still here.
So what happened after that? This is now 2015. Then McKinsey, the global management consulting firm, had been here for maybe 3 years by then, and they wanted someone to help them build their public sector practice. So I worked with McKinsey. They gave me a 1-year consultancy to build their public sector practice, to help them also penetrate in the public sector and do their work in Kenya. So that's what I did for 1 year. But that contract had a condition that you cannot work for competitors, you cannot work for the clients, etc. So I also took that now to take a break. And also do my family things. So that's what I've been doing the last 1 year also.
Okay. Yeah. And so what's the next step for you? Are you going to go back? I'm sure you're still very globally attractive. Mm-hmm. Are you going to stay? Or are you just holding? Let me see.
Let me put it this way. My option then was to go back to FDB because basically this was a secondment.
Yes.
And I was there for about 12 to 18 months or so. So it was I was seconded from FDB. There was the option to go back to FDB. But by the time you come back to Kenya, You've already been here for, more than a year.
You've settled in.
You've settled in. My family was already here. My daughter, who was with me in Tunis, had also told me at some point, just before I left Tunis, she had told me, Mom, I'm going back to Kenya, my country. We'll be calling you. Yes, I want to be home. We'll be calling you every Sunday with Dad. We'll be, that kind of thing. So now being here with them for that period, I lost the desire to go back, outside. So, and then getting the consultancy with McKinsey helped me even stabilize even more. Then from there, I didn't want to go back out. And what I would say is I want to still grow my career here. Mm-hmm. My area is digital transformation. I'm still very good at it. So I want to do as much as possible as I can here. And I know I will. And also because my husband is more involved in politics. And I want him to be able to do what he's doing. But at the same time, I support him, at the home front. He's the president of my home. I'm the deputy. So we make sure that the home, my daughter is well taken care of. At the same time, I also pursue, continue with my career aspirations. Digital transformation is here to stay. So yes, I'll be doing digital transformation initiatives.
So what if I was to give you the resources, the goodwill, political and otherwise, to do whatever, what would be the project of your heart right now?
The one thing I would still want to do, because it's happened every 5 years, we've been having this problem, and it continues even now. You've seen what happened in 2017. This year, you've seen. The one thing I would want to deliver is a single digital voters register. And we must do that. This country must do that. Because otherwise, every year, every 5 years, we are going to go back to that discussion. So that's the one thing I would still want to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Regardless, even after all you've been through, that's the project of your heart.
That's a project of my heart.
So going back to the beginning where you were talking about your life has always, one thing that's been instilled in you, that it's about service, but then it's not always been easy. So just looking back, ever since you came back, for example, what has been a time when you've really maybe thought, is this worth it? Where you've questioned, circumstances have been very difficult and you've raised questions. Yeah. Can you talk about some of that?
Yeah. I will talk about the most recent, because it's still on my mind right now. My husband getting arrested. My husband is Devin Day, who was arrested a week or so ago when we had gone for a holiday. And actually we had gone to attend my nephew's wedding, which was on that Saturday. Then he was arrested the following day on Sunday. He also happens to be the advisor to the leader of the opposition, Honorable Raila Odinga. He happens to be his key strategist. So basically, he had been detained. He was detained. They took him on Sunday evening, and he was released the following day at around 4.
Why was he detained?
Well, to start with, they never gave reasons. There were 7 men there, 2 had guns. And I would ask them, if you're taking him, first of all, I need to know who you are. And I need to know what he's being charged for.
So these men came to the place you were on?
The hotel we were staying in. Yes. So my daughter and my husband were actually going for dinner. And they were very hungry. So I told them, be going. Let me get ready. I'll join you. I'll join you later. So then they saw 2 vehicles just outside the reception area. They saw 2 vehicles and they were full of men. And in fact, my daughter tells me, my husband commented that, what are they doing? Because they were looking at them. And then 2 men came out and said hello to them. And then they said, we want to talk to you. But it was a bit intimidating. We want to talk to you. But so, me who? Aren't you Devin Day? Yes, I am. And you're who? So he began that kind of a conversation. Then they said, we've been sent. We would like to have a word with you. But they were, closing in on him. Then, so my daughter saw that. Then after that, they started leading him, towards maybe where the vehicles were. Then the other men, 7 of them, no, in total there were 7, came out of the vehicles. And 2 were holding guns. Big guns, so you could see them. It's not like they were hiding them. So my daughter saw that and just sensed it's not well. So she ran back to the room. And, you know, she told me, Mom, the police, they've come, they're taking Dad away. And so I dressed quickly, and initially she's a bit of a drama queen. So I thought, you know, she's just bluffing. And I said, oh, come on. She said, yes, 2 of them have guns. So I quickly dressed up and took my phone. Now, unfortunately, my husband had lost his phone. Not lost, he had his phone fell in the pool. So he actually didn't have a phone. So then I meet them at the reception. They're coming in. They are these 2 men very close to him, like almost holding him, but they're not holding him. Then he told me, give me your phone. And of course, he didn't know how to use my phone. So I'm even having to show him where the numbers are, you know. And then we go and sit somewhere at the reception at the corner there. And all these men are just around. And they make it such that I can't even talk to him. They're trying to push me away. And there was a table right in front of where he was seated, and there was one gentleman there, and there was this table here. So what I did was I just came over the table and sat here, right next to them, and I explained to him, I mean, this is my husband. If you're taking him, I need to know who, you know, I need to know what's happening, you know. And he started telling me, no. I think women are supposed to just keep quiet. So I said, no, I must know. You're not taking him here without knowing. Can you show me your identification? I insisted on getting his identification. So he gave me his identification. I wrote the details. Then he also tried, at the same time I tried to talk to them, and I told them, you're seven men. 2 of you have guns. I mean, look at me. I'm shorter than all of you. You know, what can I do? You think I can just somehow do some magic here and make him disappear? You know, so I was trying to engage them so that he could have a little bit of time to just make a call or 2 or send a message or 2. So after that, now they got very agitated because I was also kind of challenging what they were doing. So they held him and they said, we are moving to the vehicle. So he was still talking on the phone, but because he didn't have a phone, and I did not want him to go with my phone because then I would have to make many calls. I was, you know, also tagging along, you know. So he got in and he was still talking on the phone, and they started moving the car. I was swinging on the door. Wow. Because the car was moving, and I wanted him to finish talking so that he leaves me with the phone. And after that, I was able to make a couple of calls and get mobilized. So
you were actually right, and you know, how old is your daughter?
11.
Okay, so you and an 11-year-old girl were in the middle of all of this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and so I made a number of calls so to mobilize, because my fear was they're going to torture him. They're going to torture him. I could see even the way they didn't want to answer questions, the way they just wanted to take him quickly so that before people know what's happening, he's gone. You know, so that's why when I asked for the ID number of that gentleman and I took the details, the first thing I did after they left is send it out. This is a man who has taken my husband. Yeah, please spread it out. You know, because I feared they were going to torture him. Because I have known this to happen before, you know, and people have died, even during the elections time, people died. So that day I questioned a few things. I thought to myself, if my father and Jomo Kenyatta, among others, I mean, I'm not saying they were the only ones, were detained for 9 years for what they believed in, the same principles my husband is fighting for, why would the son of Jomo be the one, you know, detaining my husband for the same principles, you know, who believes in the same things, you know? So that day, yes, I did question, and I did question, you know, where are we going? We're going back to those days, you know? So yes, it made me question.
You know, Rosie, I'm listening to you and I'm also thinking, it's interesting because part of the system you were creating would have enabled this. Exactly. Would have enabled people to know this is where they are. Exactly. So do you have these mixed feelings about maybe that's part of the system that is helping people trace others? In
fact, after that incident, the following day, when I was making my statement on how my husband had been taken, I challenged the president. I reminded him that he's the one who brought me back here in 2014. I had a very good job in AFDB. My salary was fantastic. I came here, they stopped paying me. So for that 1 year, they were not paying me. And I'd left a very good salary at AFDB, you know, but I did it because of conviction. So here I reminded him, you brought me back in 2014, and here you are doing something totally against what you said in 2014. You wanted transparency in how, you wanted this single source of truth to provide transparency in how the country is governed. But here you are doing the most untransparent thing. I questioned him.
So for you, this system is actually designed not just for the security of the state, but it is a system that is supposed to help even a citizen. If somebody is arrested, your family should be able to find out exactly where you are, what's going on. It's supposed to also protect the citizen.
Actually, I would put it the other way. Security is about people, not about the state.
Okay.
I should not live my life. I'm always seeing white cars outside my house without number plates. I'm more scared of the government attacking me in my own home than I'm scared of Al-Shabaab attacking me in my own home. So that's what I'm talking about. Security is about people, the people of Kenya, the citizens of Kenya. So my question to the president, you brought me back so that we could create a system to protect Kenyan citizens. Have you forgotten? Were you not committed to protecting Kenyans? That basically was my question. Yes, the security is about protecting Kenyans, not the state. Why do you want to protect the state? It's a people. It's a people who need protection. It's a people who need security. And that's my point, and it still is my point.
So given all this, I'm just trying to think how I would react, how I would feel about this. Where are you as a person? Where is your family? What do you feel? This is, where are you at with all this now?
Okay. The one thing I would say, which that lesson taught me, so my husband is the one at the forefront, but as his wife, first of all, I must know what he's doing. I must know what he's doing, because if I didn't know, if I had no clue, then first of all, I would have been asking very basic questions. So why are you taking? I would have had no idea. But I had quite a bit of, I had ideas on why they could have been taking him. And it was not really out of the blues, or rather, it didn't catch me completely unaware of why they would want to take him.
Even though you said he has not committed a crime, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Because he hadn't. Just saying what you believe in and saying something is right and something is wrong, that's not a crime. There's nothing criminal about that. So one thing is that we must get to know what our spouses are doing. To have a bit of they might not give you in details, but to know what they are doing, and to support them in their cause. They need to be supported. Like I said, my husband is the head of my home. I'm his deputy. So when he's not there, when he's at the forefront there, when he's spending a lot of time there, I need to keep the home going as his wife. So that's one. But also, what I've also seen is the need to basically change a little bit on how there's too much harassment going on. Why do I have white cars without number plates coming to my home? We cannot live in a country where we fear the government more than we fear the criminals and Al-Shabaab and that kind of thing. This has to change. So in a way, it's being able to support him so that he can be able to champion that as I look at my home and also pursue my career. Basically, that's what I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think, being in a situation like this, and I don't want you to put your daughter on the spot, but as a parent, and not necessarily just speaking to her, but in terms of what we need to do for the next generation, in the place that we are as a country, in a place where, we want to, as you say, take away this fear, we want to bring a new sense of security regardless. What would you think our as a generation we need to do?
One is, I think we need to talk to our children a lot more, because before, the kind of questions my daughter has been asking, I can see now a slightly deeper understanding, but at the same time, more curiosity. She never thought, why would they take him? For what reason exactly? But was it wrong for him to say that? She's now even asking slightly deeper questions. She asks questions sometimes, and I ask her, I tell her, oh, by the way, I think you need time to spend more time with dad. Ask him those questions. I think we need to spend more time with our children and not ignore their questions. We need to get them to understand. In fact, what has happened, what has occurred to me, they understand more than we think they do.
So what would you say you would want, looking back when you're 100 years old, what would your legacy be? What would you want people to remember Mwende Gatabaki for?
I would go back to that project I was doing and actually complete it. That project had 4 core pillars: the people, the land, the assets, and the company registry. I would want to go back to that project and complete it so that what I'm remembered for is having spearheaded the digital transformation of government. Not because of government, but to be able to provide security, to boost national security and reduce crime, to be able to provide a platform to facilitate more efficient services to the people of Kenya, and to also have a platform that makes accessibility wherever you are in Kenya, anytime, any place. You can be able to apply for services. For example, if that platform is working, you don't have to come to Nairobi to apply for an ID or a passport or what have you. You can apply it from wherever you are.
For whatever you want, anywhere.
From anywhere, anytime. We say anywhere, anytime. If you want a service, you don't have to wait 8 to 5 when the government offices are open. You just go to the system and you log into it and you apply for it. So for me, that is the one thing I would like to deliver, the digital transformation and a digital identity. In fact, I would call it a digital identity infrastructure for this country. And it will also be useful for example, KRA. KRA would be able to collect its taxes from individuals, from owners of buildings, they have the whole database. They're able to collect taxes. It would help banks when they're doing their Know Your Customer, because now you have the data in the system. They're able to track money, so we'll be able to address we would be able to address financing of terrorism. Would be able to address that. Money transfers. The central bank would actually be able to do a better job at monitoring how banks, are behaving. So that we don't wait until one bank starts collapsing and we see, it has a domino effect and others start collapsing. You're able to actually get data and get predictive analysis from that kind of data and be able to make decisions, evidence-based decisions, which will help this country. So that's one project I would still want to do. It's unfinished.
But you have time.
Yeah. I would want to do it. I would want to do it, yes.
Okay. And if you were able to influence your generation to leave something so that when this generation passes off, in history, they would say for the next generation, the generation of your daughter and her peers, what is the one thing you would think our generation must leave the next generation?
A better country.
In what way?
A better country where everybody counts.
Okay.
That it doesn't matter your tribe. It doesn't matter whether you come from a wealthy family or not. It doesn't matter what part of Kenya you come from. You are a Kenyan. You are entitled to anything, all the benefits of this country. You have the right to vote. A better country from that perspective. You are secure. Your security is well taken care of. That is what I would want to leave behind. What my generation should leave behind for our children.
Do you think we can deliver?
At the rate we are going, because my parents tell me they fought for the independence, they got it. So they told my father would told me, now it's you you'll gain from the fruits of independence. The fruits are yours.
Yes.
We fought for independence. The fruits are yours. I ask myself, what are we leaving? What are the fruits we are leaving for them? If we don't really change the way we do things in Kenya, I'm afraid we might not be able to deliver much. We must change, but that change must happen. So we must not give up. That change must happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to leave as a last word?
No, just thank you very much for asking me to come on this platform.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate having a forum where I can, talk a little bit about the things I think about.
Yeah.
Sometimes in a country like Kenya, women, we are only called to talk when, things have either completely gone down. When serious national issues are being discussed, hardly do
we're not given the platform.
Involved. Yes, exactly. Yes. So I would say I appreciate.
And I want to say thank you, Mwende. I don't think even those people who know you know the whole breadth of work that you've done. I think you've done your part in building the nation. Sometimes you think it's only the political side. And it's amazing to think of all the many other different ways. It's amazing to know that digital transformation, the seeds have been planted in Kenya. Even before the 21st century, there were those who were coming through the system. It's amazing to see your impact on the continental, realm. It's amazing to see that you've done work that has actually transformed the world. So it's been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I wish you all the best with the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.